Today we are talking about Andrea Glauser, who is a name that you have absolutely no idea about unless you're an avid watcher of the Swiss Hockey League and or a particular follower of Laussanne HC. Now, this could be just seen as a random video about a random guy, but there is some substance here. And it comes to us in the form of a few updates in regards to some NHL teams. Now, who exactly is Andrea Glauser? Well, he is a 28-year-old, 6 feet, 190-pound right-handed defenseman who scored himself 16 points in 47 games played this season with Lausanne. And it's not really, too obvious here, but this is a guy who, after playing his entire career in Switzerland, may be getting set to playing in North America soon. Here's an article published on lematin.ch. The writer of this article is Emmanuel Favre Montreal. Yeah, the guy's last name is Montreal. This article was translated into English, and it goes out there and talks about how this Swiss defender from Laussanne HC is of interest to an NHL team. Let's go out there and read this piece, go over the update, and talk about the New York Islanders, because even though this player doesn't know, his record and his play are, that shouldn't say scrutinized, that's a bad word, are scouted by the New York Islanders following the intervention of a good Samaritan. Take a look at this. Andrea Glauser, at 28 years old, doesn't know it, or he's ignored it, but his profile has attracted one of the 32 NHL teams. The Fribourg defender from Laussanne HC, currently involved in the National League semi-final, is on the radar of the New York Islanders, an organization that is struggling today to punch their ticket to the playoffs in the most competitive league in the world. But the question is, how did the profile of Andrea Glauser, a man who was still sweating in the knitting of the modest Lango Tigers when COVID-19 entered our lives and in the ice rinks, land on the desk of the venerable Lou Lamoriello, president and GM of the Isles, a team which maintains Swiss links since it skates in UBS Arena, and the logo of the Union of Swiss Banks appears on the helmets of the hockey players coached by Quebecer Patrick Roy. Is it due to the agent of Andrea Glauser, his persuasiveness who has a direct line to the big boss? No, he hasn't entrusted the defense of her interest to a behemoth of the profession. He negotiated and signed his last contract alone, like a big guy measuring 1.82 meters tall with an exit clause added by if a chance a call from overseas were to ring out. Now, what exactly is this article talking about at the beginning? It just says no. It just says the guy was able to negotiate his own contracts, he is his own negotiator, and what? There happens to be some very significant NHL interest here from the New York Islanders. According to sources met in North America, one person who has no connection with Laussanne HC, with the Islanders, or with Andrea Glauser himself, but who knows hockey and the NHL and Lou Lamoriello, who suggested for the senior management of the Islanders to eye this Swiss defender, a possible hidden card at the time when many franchises only have limited room for maneuver under the salary cap. So if we take this as our gospel here, it's apparent that a guy who happens to know hockey and the NHL and Lou Lamoriello, apparently this one person told them, hey, check out this guy playing for Laussanne HC in the Swiss League, Andrea Glauser. Take a look at him. It's very interesting how our apparent source has no connections to the team or to the player, but happened to have said, hey, here's a flyer, look at this guy. And of course, the argument here is that because the salary cap is pretty tight, because it's difficult to find players to fill out a roster, you're going to need to get those cheaper deals, the guys who can provide more value than their dollar amounts would suggest. Since February, as in any serious undertaking, Lou Lamoriello has called upon numerous skills, including that of Patrick Roy, to analyze Andrea Glauser's game. All the signals are positive, explains one of our interlocutors. That's a really great word to use in that sentence, eh? There's still a way to go, but I wouldn't be surprised if the New York Islanders offered Glauser a one-year, $1.5 million contract. My gosh, that's insane. This guy has played his entire career in Switzerland. He has had no NHL scouting opportunities whatsoever. He's 28 years old, which means he would have been eligible for the 2014 NHL Draft. Back in 2013-14, he was playing in the Elite Junior A League in Switzerland. He wasn't producing any points. He wasn't really putting himself on the map. He's 6 feet, so not really the biggest guy out there. Right-handed defenseman, of course, there's value there, but this guy, who has produced only 16 points in 47 games, is now apparently being scouted heavily by the New York Islanders, so much to the point that they are probably going to offer him a contract based off of this article. Very, very interesting. If he accepts this deal, Glauser would become the third Swiss player to join the Isles after Graubünden winger Nino Niederreiter and Bernese defenseman Mark Streit. Now, I also wanted to turn your attention to this article published on ProHockeyRumors.com, because what I like about this article, published by Josh Erickson, is it goes over some of the intricacies with the contract. How this guy, who turned 28 last week, is a transition-minded defender with a rather physical game. He spent the entirety of his pro career in the Swiss League before heading over to Laussanne HC in 2021. He served as the alternate captain there for all 3 years of his tenure, and his 23-24 campaign is still ongoing as they are alive in the semifinals of the playoffs. Glauser is too old for an entry-level contract, so the Islanders would need to offer him a standard deal, eliminating the potential for performance bonuses and meaning all of his money is guaranteed. The willingness to offer him a $1.5 million contract suggests it would be a one-way agreement too, offering them no cash discount if he's assigned to the minors. That cap hit is above the buried threshold of $1.15 million, meaning he'd still cost the Islanders $350,000 against the cap if he was sent to the AHL. The Islanders' transition game from their defensemen has suffered with the slight declines of Adam Pelech and Ryan Pulock, although Noah Dobson's emergence as a top 15 defender has quieted some of those worries. Glauser would likely replace veteran Robert Bortuzzo, a pending UFA, as the fourth right-shot defenseman on their depth chart behind Dobson, Pulock, and Scott Mayfield. So this happens to be a very, very odd rumor. I honestly can't remember the last time we have seen a guy like this. Not like, oh, a European free agent getting money from an NHL team. That's fine. Like, that happens all the time. But the fact that Andrea Glauser, a guy who has had really nothing worthy of note over the past few years to work off of, aside from his transition and physical shutdown game, that is very, very interesting. Like, normally for shutdown transition-based defenders, if you're good enough to be in the NHL, you're already scouted and you're already putting yourself on the map. Like, Glauser is 28 years old, so he's had such a long time to do that, but the fact that we're not really seeing any other NHL teams looking at this guy, the fact that it's apparently only the New York Islanders, that intrigues me. Have the Islanders found themselves some sort of a diamond in the rough, let's say a shutdown guy that can play middle to bottom 4 minutes on a team for cheap? And if it is $1.5 million a year, if he's able to be, let's say, as important in New York as he is in Lausanne right now, if he becomes, let's say, a top 4, maybe even top 2 defender, okay, he's not going to be top 2, he's not going to replace Noah Dobson, but if he's able to log, let's say, 20 minutes a night, play some of that shot-blocking style that the Islanders like to go after, he likes to dish out hits, so maybe that can work in his favor as well. It's a pretty Patrick Waugh thing to do. Just based off my understanding of some of these defensemen in New York. I mean, Dobson, Mayfield, Romanov, these guys all like to block shots. Sure, Dobson is like one of the only ones that can produce offense, but a bunch of these guys are physical, defensively minded guys. So does Andrea Glauser fit that playstyle to a T? Well, it's apparent that Lou Lamoriello and Patrick Waugh might think so. So if you're a fan of the New York Islanders, let me know your thoughts in the comments section as to this Swiss defender, this random guy who is not being scouted by any other team, how this guy might apparently get a $1.5 million contract for your squad next season. Is it a, okay, anybody is probably better than Robert Bortuzzo situation, or is it, hey, we'll just throw all our chips into the middle, see what happens, see what sticks, and if this guy works out, then hey, that's fine. If it doesn't work out, then hey, the contract we'll give him is probably only going to be 1 year long, so it's fine, right? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below if you're an Islanders fan, or if you're a Lausanne HC fan. What are your thoughts on this guy and the way that he's played in the Swiss League? I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.